Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name's Rachel. This is Rachel for Real. Today I would like to have a chat about how we plan for unexpected circumstances. Now, if that seems like a bit of an oxymoron, we can't plan for something unexpected. No, but we can plan for the fact that there is a chance that something unexpected will happen in the rest of our lives. And this has been prompted by me having to take time off work for a knee injury. And that has thrown me into a bit of a wobble about getting through the next few weeks and months. I don't know how long it's going to take for my knee injury to heal. I'm still waiting for an MRI scan. I've had an x-ray and I've seen the consultant, but now he wants me to have an MRI scan, but I'm still waiting for the appointment, so I don't know when that's going to be. So everything feels very much up in the air and I'm feeling a bit vulnerable and a bit scared, if I'm honest. So yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today. Anyway, before we get to that, I would just like to thank all my new subscribers. I've had a little surge in subscriptions recently, which has absolutely thrilled me. I've just hit 200 subscribers, and when I made my first video, I never thought I would get 1 subscriber. So thank you all, the original subscribers and the latest subscribers and everybody in between. I really appreciate your support. It's fantastic and it makes me very happy. So thank you. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, why the hell not? Come on, it's free, it's frugal, it's fun. Come and join us. We're a nice bunch of people over here. So back to the topic of today's video. I did make a few notes. So at the moment, my situation is very unknown, very uncertain, not sure on timescales. And because I'm self-employed, I don't get sick pay from my employer. So I don't have any income coming in at the moment and for the foreseeable future. And I think that sense of lack of control over the situation is probably what's stressing me out most, because I don't have a time frame and I don't know what's going to happen. I just know that at the moment I'm supposed to be resting as much as I can't go to work, and therefore I can't earn money. And as a solo person, I live on my own, there's no other income coming into the household. That is really stressful. It's very stressful. I don't have anybody else's wage to fall back on. So let me know if you're single and solo and whether, you know, if something untoward happened, you would be in a similar situation. I hope for your sake that you're employed or you have a pension and you can live on that while you're sorting yourself out. But if not, if you're like me and you've got no income coming in, let me know how you've got round that. If it's something that's happened in the past, I would love to know. And I'm sorry you had to go through it. Okay, so how can we plan for these type of things happening in our lives? The chances are, as we get older, our health is likely to deteriorate. Maybe we'll have more, physical problems. We might have some neurological problems. Brain might not work like it did. A lot of people women going through menopause have found that their memory is shot. It doesn't work like it used to, and the world's a little bit foggy, and it's quite surprising how different you feel mentally at that stage in your life. And then as you age, you've got issues with memory loss and all the things like dementia and that sort of thing. I don't want this to be a Debbie Downer video. I'm not trying to make us all gloomy. It's just, occasionally we have to be realistic and plan ahead so that if they're the circumstances we find ourselves in the future, we have some way of dealing with it that's positive. So my first piece of advice would be, before you get to that point, have multiple streams of income. So if you're still working, can you have a side hustle which brings in a little bit of money on the side of your salary? Because then at least if you have to take time off and you go on sick pay, which in the UK certainly it decreases over the time you're off, so you're likely to be on less money than you were on but still have the same outgoings. But the stream of income from another source could be, the difference between paying your bills and not. If you're retired and you're on a pension, then in theory you've got a little bit more time, so it might be easier to set up a side hustle to get that extra stream of income coming in. Another idea is to save some money before you get to the point of being laid off, or having to retire through ill health, or having to have time off unpaid or on reduced pay. Now, I don't count savings as an emergency fund, and I think if you're going to prioritise one of those two things, it would be the emergency fund. So whatever stage you're at the moment in your life, every spare penny you can put aside into an emergency fund, obviously without going into debt, you don't want to make your situation worse, do it. You know, build up that emergency fund. People used to say £1,000 or $1,000. Great. If you can save £1,000 or $1,000, that's really good. That's a really good start. But I think in this day and age, with the price of everything, especially rent, mortgages, food, all that sort of thing, anything above 1,000 would be even better. So if you haven't already got an emergency fund, or it's not very big, focus on that, build it up to the amount that you can manage, and anytime you get a little bit of extra money, put it in your emergency fund until it's at a level where you can certainly pay a few months of living expenses on a bare bones budget, not on a regular budget, but you can cover a bare bones budget for a few months using your emergency fund. And it is only there for emergencies like job loss, illness, that type of thing. Whereas savings are more of a sort of long-term goal, that you have that backup, that you have a bit of extra money that's in an account that's earning you some interest, so it's not just devaluing with inflation. You have that money there for, you know, later in life when perhaps you're just on the state pension or social security in America, and that's less than you were earning when you were at work. So having that savings fund can be a buffer when things that aren't technically an emergency but do need solving, problems that do need solving, the money can be spent on that. So, you know, we have to do maintenance on properties and cars, and if you're in reduced circumstances, those savings will be the difference between being able to do that and not. The next thing I thought about was being prepared to adapt. For the last sort of week or so, I've been trying to adapt to not being at work and to not doing the activities that I enjoy doing, like being up on my allotment or walking, those type of things. I'm an outdoor person at heart. I don't like being inside for too long. It feels very claustrophobic to me. And it's not even the fact that I don't like being home, it's the fact that I don't have a choice. I think that's the issue. It's, you know, if I had a choice between being at home or being outside, I'd be outside, but I'm quite happy to be at home when I know I can go outside when I want to. Does that make sense? So I'm having to adapt. I'm having to think about things that I can do inside that, you know, make me happy and keep me occupied. Having a think about different scenarios going forwards depending on how fast my knee heals and what I need to do in order to get it to heal. And I can't say it's easy. I've had to adapt so many times in my life to different circumstances. Lots of moving house, lots of broken relationships, and, you know, different circumstances, moving jobs, that kind of thing, and having to sort of start again multiple times. But I find forced inactivity probably the most uncomfortable of all of those. Even the rest, you know, the really bad bits of the other bits were emotionally traumatic, and I don't ever want to have to go through them again. But I don't know, the fidget in me is struggling. But as the days go on, I'm becoming more accustomed to it and more resigned to it. And I know that if I go through this kind of adaptation phase, that not only will it seem less uncomfortable for me, it will also speed my healing up. I can keep going as much as I want, but I won't get better if I keep doing that. So, you know, I can do a bit, but then I have to sit down and rest. So where it is at the moment, you know, we have to adapt to the circumstances we find ourselves in. And when my knee's better and I can go out and about whenever I want, I will be a really happy bunny. Look for alternative solutions would be my next piece of advice. And most of this is for myself, trying to get through these few weeks, but hopefully it would help any of you if you're going through that at the at this moment, or you come across it in the future. So what else can you do? So at the moment I've got no money coming in, so what can I advertise online to sell to bring a bit of money in? You know, I'm sure most of us have got more things than we actually need, and certainly some things in the cupboards that we never use that somebody else could get pleasure from and get use out of. Can we get a little bit of income in that way? Now, it doesn't replace the income you've lost or what you've been doing. You know, if you've lost your job, you're going to have to look for another job. If you're sick, you're going to have to wait out that time until you're better. But it's a little bit of money coming in, and I think psychologically that's really helpful. You know, you feel like you're in control of a bit of it, even if the outside world has, you know, got you to the circumstances you're in the first place. Now, the next few all go together. Do you need to change jobs? Could you go part-time? And looking for a job if you've been made redundant. Now, they're all different in their own ways, aren't they? You know, do you need to change jobs because the job you have doesn't fit in with your physical capabilities at this stage in your life, or there's too much commuting and, you know, sitting in the car for an hour each way gives you so much back pain, it's just not worth it, and you need to look for a job closer to home? Or like me, you're taking time off because of an injury and you don't know how long that's going to continue for and what the solution is long term. So I'm seriously having to consider looking for other employment. I can't afford to retire. I'm not quite 60 and I don't get my state pension until I'm 67, and I don't have private pension that I can take now to supplement me until my state pension. I have to keep working. I don't have a choice. I have to keep working. So what type of work could I do to earn money if I have to give up the job I'm doing now? And I really hope I don't have to, because I like my job and I like the people that I work for, and I've known many of them for, you know, 3, 4, 5 years now, and I'll miss them if I have to give up work. I really will. And my job suits me, and looking for something more office-based, or what's the word, more fixed, I suppose, in terms of hours and duties and having to report to a supervisor or something, that doesn't suit me. You know, that's not certainly not my comfort zone mentally. I really struggle. I've had jobs like that in the past and I've struggled to keep them. Yeah, I just hate it. I can't stand working in an office. That's what it comes down to. I hate it. It's not for me. But the type of jobs that are for me are getting harder now because of my age and physical things happening, injuries, that type of thing. And yeah, it's a bit of a conundrum. It's left me in a bit of a funny place, not knowing which way to go. Best case scenario, my knee heals in the next few weeks and I can go back to work as normal. Worst case scenario, it doesn't, and I'm limited in what I can do, and I have to get another job, probably an employed job. So yeah, that's all fun, isn't it? Yeah. But we have to be realistic and we have to think about these things, because if we don't and then we get to crunch point where we have to make a decision, it's a lot more shocking and a lot more time pressured and financially pressured than it would have been had you thought about it and had some alternatives earlier. Can you go back part-time? So if your job is giving you problems mentally, you know, it's not good for your mental health or your physical health for whatever reason, can you drop your hours? Can you go to the company that you work for and ask them whether you could go down to 4 days a week or 3 days a week or whatever? You know, it's worth thinking about, because at the end of the day, yes, we have to pay our bills, but our mental health and physical health is the most important thing, isn't it? You know, without that, we can't go to work anyway. You know, what alternatives can we think of that will make our situation better? Looking for a new job if you've been made redundant. This is a tricky one. I haven't been made redundant for a long time. I was made redundant probably 9 years ago. Yeah, probably about 9 years ago. And that was a real shock to the system. And it's happening to a lot of people. And I think the way the world is at the moment, it's going to happen to a lot more probably. Now, if you've been in your job for a long time and when you signed the contract you had good terms and conditions, you might get a nice redundancy package which can keep you going for a while you're looking for a new job. However, recent employment contracts haven't had the same benefits that they used to have, and people don't tend to get very good redundancy packages. So even if you do get one, it might not be enough to sustain you for more than a few weeks, maybe months. So you have to start applying again, which, if you've been in a job for a long time, is stressful, nerve-wracking, and as you get older, whether they say it's true or not, there is ageism in the workplace and in the job market. It's harder for people over the age of 50 to be employed. People over the age of 50, a lot of them, most of them probably can't afford to retire. So they have to find work, and that might be a pay cut. So all of these things need thinking about ahead of time. You know, not to the point where you depress yourself, but just every now and again have a think about what alternatives can you come up with if your circumstances change. Hopefully you'll never have to use them. But if you do, at least you've got some preparation. And I think the final one is coping with the mental and physical and emotional effects of these types of life change. They do throw you for a wobble. It can feel quite devastating if you're made redundant, especially if you have dependents, you've got children, people that you have to look after, you have mortgage or rent to pay, all those sort of things. The bills don't stop just because your work does. And that's the mental stress that, well, I'm feeling at the moment, but also I think most people would feel in similar circumstances if they've been made redundant or they'd had to stop work for ill health, whatever. And I think that side of it's not given enough airtime. A lot of it is focused on money for good reason. The adjustment mentally is as important and probably harder to adapt to because you're sitting with it all the time, aren't you? You're worrying about what if, and that game of what if can wear you out. Let's just have a quick sum up then. I mean, I've sort of I don't mean to be gloomy, I really don't. You've got to pay your taxes. You should write a will, because by doing those things, your life is easier further on, isn't it? You're doing the right and responsible things. And I think planning ahead for unforeseen circumstances is also doing the right thing. You have to be prepared that things will happen through no fault of your own, and you're the one who's left to deal with it. It's a proactive, positive thing to do, even though it seems a bit gloomy when you're not in the position yet to need it. I mean, when we're younger, 19 or whatever, you think you're never going to get old, and everybody who's 40 is ancient already, aren't they? And then you get to 40, 50, 60 and you suddenly think, flipping heck, mentally I still feel 19, but I'm starting to carry a bag to pick up the bits that are dropping off my body, and it does catch up with you. We're not machines, we can't keep going forever, and things happen. Better to take positive steps now to at least have a little plan, a plan that hopefully you won't have to use, but if you do have to use it, you've got a nice structure to work from and to make the next few years better. I would love to hear any of your thoughts or suggestions on this topic, whether you've been through similar types of things and how you dealt with it, or what advice you would give to people in their 20s, 30s, 40s who maybe haven't got to that point yet, so that they don't have to struggle with it. Well, thank you for watching. Thank you for spending your time watching. I know your time's precious. Please like and subscribe, leave a comment, and I will see you next week. Bye for now.